Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys a top 5 bosses for beginners video. And this is pretty much just going to be a countdown of the top 5 easy bosses that beginners should try doing. And before I start the video, I do want to clarify that what I mean by beginners is players new to bossing, so they have the stats to boss, but they are just getting into it or want to get into it. I am not talking about players who are just starting a new account or something like that, because it takes a long time for you to actually get these stats to be able to boss. So if you want to see the requirements that I'm talking about, I'll be linking my top 7 PVM goals video in the description down below, so check that out because it has some really great goals that you can build your account off of, so you can finally get into some PVM, high-level PVM, and some bossing. But anyway, just a brief summary of some requirements that you would be expected to have are at least about 80 to 85 combat stats, at least 80 plus gear, and then curses, overloads, that kind of stuff is just a bonus. And I go further into detail in all that stuff in that video. So definitely check that out if you guys haven't already. And if you guys don't already know, bossing is actually the best moneymaker in the game, in my opinion. It's also the most fun, which is my opinion as well, but I believe many people who play RuneScape 3 really only enjoy the game for its bossing. So that is really why you would want to get into this stuff. It's fun, they have some really profitable drops, and it's great to do with friends. So anyway, let's get on with the video. The top 5 beginner bosses for players new to bossing. So starting at number 5, we have the King Black Dragon. And so this boss is one of the oldest bosses in RuneScape, but it is also really easy now, so it is a good boss to start off with. If you don't already know, you can get to the King Black Dragon by using the artifact in Edgeville, and now this is only for members worlds. If you are in free-to-play world, because this boss is free-to-play as well, you will need to go to the lava maze and find the entrance there. It is a lot more difficult, and I really wouldn't advise even doing this boss in free-to-play. Anyway, this boss is pretty easy. It only has 40,000 health, and it's going to have some fire attacks as it is a dragon, so you will need to use a anti-fire dragon shield, or use a super anti-fire, or just a regular anti-fire. You'll also want to use the protect from magic at this boss as well. And you can use any combat style. I'm using range, as you can see right here. But overall, it is a pretty easy boss to kill. The only downside about this boss is it is fairly boring. It doesn't really have many drops, so if you kind of find that you are actually mastering this boss and without dying or without even having a hard time, then you could definitely move on to a boss that is further up on this list. I just had to include the King Black Dragon on this list because it is one of the first bosses that you should probably try out before actually getting into some high level bossing. And I also wanted to mention that you don't have to use a Dragonfire Shield. You can use a two-handed weapon. As you can see, I'm using my Noxious Longbow. And if you are using a two-handed weapon, you must have a super anti-fire, because this will protect you from the fire damage, which will be super high if you don't have this on. And it is strongly advised to use the super anti-fire over the anti-fire, which would require 85 herb lore. So that is a fairly high requirement, but it's definitely really useful. And another thing is that using a two-handed weapon is actually a lot better. You get kills much faster. As you can see, I killed it there in about 30 seconds, opposed to the 1 minute where I was killing it with the Dragonfire Shield. So overall, King Black Dragon is a really easy boss, and you shouldn't really have too much trouble with it. So if you find that it's a pretty easy boss for you, then I would definitely advise checking out one of these bosses that is further up this list. Moving on to number 4, we have the Chaos Elemental. And this boss is pretty interesting because it is located in the wilderness. It's also a really easy boss to kill, but unlike the King Black Dragon, it does have some really expensive drops that are worth a lot, although they are extremely unique. And so as you could just see, I did pick up the Hellfire Bow, and that is located in the wilderness. You can use your wilderness sword to actually locate it, so you can locate the Hellfire Bow. Just click that option on the wilderness sword, and it will tell you if it's in the 4 quadrants of the wilderness, so you can go to one of those and search that quadrant so you can find it. And this makes the Chaos Elemental much easier to kill, and it's also, less risky because you have a tier 90 bow, so you can kill a lot faster. And it doesn't matter if you die because you can't really take the Hellfire Bow out of the wilderness. The only problem with using this bow is that it will tell PKers where you are, so you do have to watch out for this. But if you don't have 90 range, then just wear some gear that you won't be worried about losing, and bring a pretty good weapon so you can actually kill it. And it's advised to use a long range weapon, so either use magic or ranged. So as you can see, the Chaos Elemental is located in the northeast part of the wilderness, past the wilderness gate, and it has 20,000 life points, so that's pretty easily to actually kill. And it doesn't have too many mechanics. The only mechanics that it does have is a spell which disarms you, but if your inventory is full, then he will not be using the spell, so you will want to try and keep it full at all times. And then it also has a spell where it teleports you, and then it will use some magic attacks, so if you want, you can use some protect from magic, or you can just use soul split if you have it. Now this boss is actually really easy to kill. It's a little bit annoying because of all the teleports and all the times it disarms you, but that doesn't change the fact that it is a really easy boss to kill. And the good part about this boss is that it actually has some really rare drops that are worth a lot. One being the Stasis Warhammer, and this is actually worth 79 mil right now, so it's pretty insane, although the drop rate is 1 in 28,800. But it does have a lot of really rare drops like this, and some of them are worth, I guess, as low as 50k up to 10, 20 mil. So it's kind of exciting that you have a bit of a chance to get one of these really rare drops and make bank. And this is one of the main reasons why I put Chaos Elemental above some of the other bosses. It's because that it has a chance to really pay off for you in the end. Most beginner bosses, they don't really give you much money. They don't really have any good drops, so just since the Chaos Elemental has a chance of rewarding you with a really good drop, it kind of makes up for it and makes it a little less boring. So one more thing that I would like to mention before moving on to number 3 is that you really need to be careful while killing the Chaos Elemental, because people do check this. They check to see if people are killing this so they can PK them. So just try and be cautious of that. If you see anyone, definitely just start running. The closest place to get out is the lever, which is just a little bit west of here. Moving on to number 3, I have Barrows, and Barrows is actually a pretty good minigame slash boss to kill. It's pretty rewarding as well, so that makes it much better. But the stats required for this aren't really too high. You can kind of do it at mid-level stats, so if you have like 70 attack, strength, defense, along with some pretty good gear, you could probably get a few runs in. And so Barrows is located in the southwest part of Canvas, and I'm not really going to go over how the minigame works, but I will be linking a Barrows guide in the description if you guys want to check that out. So just a brief summary of how the minigame works. You're going to want to go over all of these little hills and dig using the shovel that is on top of them. You want to go down and search the sarcophagus, and one of the Barrows brothers should pop out, and you'll just want to kill them. And then in one of those sarcophaguses will be a tunnel. Make sure you kill all of them, all the Barrows brothers in the other sarcophaguses first, then go down in the tunnel. And you'll want to find your way to the middle, kill the last Barrows brother, and then loot the chest. I will be linking a full guide in the description, but that is just a brief summary of how this minigame works. And so the rewards that you can get from completing Barrows are Barrows equipment, which is like D-Rock and Arams, Guthans, and armor like that. And it's still worth a few mil, so you could expect around 2 mil per hour. That is if you were doing this fairly efficiently. But it's a pretty nice boss to do for beginners because it's kind of simple. It's not too hard to actually do. And you can actually make some money off this, so that is why this makes it a really good boss for beginners. And coming in at number 2, we have General Graardor. Aka the Barrows boss. So this is a God Wars 1 boss, and it's a little bit tougher than the other bosses that I have mentioned. So you will want higher stats. You could get away with having 80 combat stats if you had a partner to do it with. So if you have 80, I would expect you to do duo and not solo this boss. But Barrows boss, it's a pretty fun boss to do. It actually has a few pretty good drops in the Barrows equipment. Now it has dropped a lot since the mining and smithing rework has released. So the equipment is a lot, worth a lot less. So the GP per hour that you could expect here is probably under 1 mil now, but it's still a pretty good boss to try for beginners. And the equipment is still worth, a little bit, so it doesn't make it that awful. And I will be doing the same as before. I will be linking a full Barrows guide in the description, and that goes for every boss that I'm mentioning in this guide. I will be putting a full guide in the description down below. But overall, Barrows is a pretty fun boss to do. It definitely was when it was worth a little bit more money, but still it should be pretty fun. You can expect, 1 or 2 rare drops per hour, which is really nice, and it makes it a little bit more exciting just because you can have a pretty good chance to actually get one of these rare drops. And moving on to the number 1 boss for beginners is Vindicta, and this boss is more of a boss that you should be striving for and trying to actually get good enough to master, because this boss has some really great rewards and will make you a lot of money if you are good at it. So first of all, the requirements for Vindicta are at least 80 attack, but to actually do this boss you should probably have closer to 90 combat stats, and you should probably have curses as well. Overloads and all that stuff will really help as well, but I guess it's not really needed. You can duo this boss. It's actually pretty fun duoing, because the drop is still, like if you get a Dragon Rider Lance or a Crest of Zeros drop, it's still worth a lot, even though you have to split it. The Lance right now, I believe, is worth roughly 30 mil, maybe a little bit less, like 27 to 29 mil. And then the Crest of Zeros is worth a little bit over 20 mil. So both of these drops are, really great to actually get, and the drop rate isn't too high. The base drop rate for both of these 2 items are 1 in 504, and then with the drop rate increased at 100% reputation, it's 1 in 252. And so Vindicta can make you quite a bit of money per hour, roughly 2 to 4 mil, depending on the drops and how well you can actually kill it. And again, I will be linking a full Vindicta guide in the description down below. But just a summary of how this boss works. It will start off like this right here, and then once about 10 to 20 seconds go by, the dragon will fly over and use the purple smoke. You'll just want to avoid that, so step out of it. And then it will do this again every 20 seconds or so. So just dodge that. It does hurt a lot if you stay in it, so really try and get out of it as fast as you can. And then once you damage Vindicta down to 100,000 health, he will hop onto Gorvek and you'll be fighting them both. Now, the thing to remember here is that Gorvek and Vindicta will be using a melee attack, followed by a range attack, and then another melee attack. Then it will fly up and put down more of that purple smoke or purple fire. And the range attack hits really hard, so make sure that you either use Devotion or you use Protect from Ranged or something like that for that hit, because it will do a lot, roughly 1,000 to 3,000 or 4,000 damage. So it's really good if you have, or if you just switch to Protect from Range or use Resonance or use Devotion or something like that just to block that massive hit. I'm sure that a full guide will be going into full detail on all this, so if you are planning to actually do this boss and really learn it, do it for a long time, then definitely check out the guide that I will be placing in the description down below. Anyway, that is the top 5 bosses for players new to bossing, and I really hope this video was helpful. If you found it helpful, please leave a like and subscribe for more RuneScape 3 content. Anyway guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.